Good morning, everyone. Karo. Karo. Kabo. My name is Irawoifa. I'm the Oluwo'Nla, the head administrator at Otura Tukaa Temple. We want to welcome you to today's Sunday sermon. Today's topic is the power of cooperation. You know, Ifa says it's so important for us to all cooperate. And why? Because we get physical benefits, we get financial benefits, we get spiritual benefits. And remember, Ifa Temple is about teaching Ifa values related to the Orisha. We cooperate because we will be emulating or copying the Irawoifa, the Orisha. That's why we cooperate. It worked well for them, it'll work well for us. And lack of cooperation didn't work well for them and it won't work well for us. So what is it to cooperate? Well, the interesting thing with cooperation, let's start from the word ko. You know, ko is a prefix. Prefix is the part of that goes on to the beginning of the word ko, means together or with another person, such as co-signing. When you co-sign something, that's when two or more people sign something together. So ko is that prefix co, and then you add the word, that means two people or more coming together to do something. Well, that's what cooperation is operating, cooperate, operating together. And it's the only way to succeed. Now, a lot of people ask questions about cooperation. They want to know, man, who can I trust to cooperate with? Who can I work with? Do people really have my back? Can I find trustworthy people? What if I cooperate with people and they take what's mine? What if I cooperate with people and they don't fulfill their part? What if I do more than them but they take the credit? You see, there's all these concerns. Ifa says don't worry about those so much at the beginning. The first thing is to commit to cooperating. Because as we'll see later in the sermon today, cooperating is really what we're doing when we're in relationships, when we're in businesses, when we are in groups, organizations, we are cooperating. And there's so much mental, physical, and spiritual health to be obtained by working together. So the first stanza, in Ifa Temple, we're always giving stanzas. I want to go to the Ogunda Meji. And in Ogunda Meji, it speaks of the power of cooperation. It says that two people cannot do things alone. They need to work together. Please repeat after me. Ogunda Meji.
Ogunda Meji.
The big white iya tree.
The big white iya tree.
With its whitish bark.
With its whitish bark.
This was cast Ifa.
This was cast Ifa.
For Baba who has a pond.
For Baba who has a pond.
But he does not have a drainer.
But he does not have a trainer.
When he was ill.
When he was ill.
And he was full of problems.
When he was full of problems.
He was advised to offer a bow.
He was advised to offer a bow.
And he complied.
And he complied.
The big iya tree.
The big iya tree.
With its whitish bark.
With its whitish bark.
Cast Ifa.
Cast Ifa.
For he who has a drainer.
For he who has a drainer.
But does not have a pond.
But does not have a pond.
When he was in financial problems.
When he was in financial problems.
He was advised to offer a bow.
He was advised to offer a bow.
And he complied.
And he complied.
Okay, thank you. So this Ifa is speaking of two men. One we'll call Baba, who has a pond but no drainer. Another one was called Baba, who has a drainer but has no pond. Well, by drainer, what we mean is the tools to drain a pond. Because see, in the old days, there would be fish ponds. They still are all throughout the tropical world, especially in West Africa, but other places too. They set up these fish ponds, and then they drain. They get all the fish out. They harvest from the pond. It's called aquaculture. It's very old, very old. Well, there was a man. He was a very wealthy man. He had many ponds. He had many farms. He had many areas. His health was completely down. He was just not feeling good, and as he felt sick, more and more problems were piling up on his shoulders. He began to consider, if I get sick, will I be able to maintain all my properties? Will people still want to be around me? Will I be able to oversee my employees? All these thoughts came into his mind, and his health was dropping and dropping and dropping. So finally he went to cast Ifa. Ifa says, you will regain your health. It says you have Ogunda Meji. And it says in here that you need to cooperate. And the wealthy man says, well, what do I need to cooperate about? I have all the money I need. They said, be in a spirit of cooperation. You need one big catfish. You need to take the head of the catfish and we're going to perform a ritual. The man said, well, that's no problem. I own many ponds, and I'm sure in those there are many hundreds of catfish. It should be no problem at all. He immediately offered their bowl, and he sent his oldest son. He said, son, go to our ponds and just catch a catfish. So as the boy's going to the pond, he's walking along, and he says, I'm here to help my father. I'm going to do this. At the same time he's going that way, there's another man who casts ifa. He is Baba who has a drainer, meaning draining equipment, but he has no pond. He was in the middle of financial troubles. The financial troubles were getting serious to the point where his food payments, paying off people, all those things, the needs of his family, nothing was getting met. It was a dire situation. So he went to cast ifa. He also got a gundameji, coincidentally. He also was told to offer a boy this. You need to take the tail of a catfish, and we will perform a ritual with this to your ifa, and all will be well for you. All will be well. So he said, well, I have all the equipment, but I have no pond. So he sent his oldest son to go out and look for a catfish somewhere. Well, as you can imagine, these two boys met up. And as they were walking along, they said, where are you going? They said, well, I'm going to look for a catfish for my father, for his health. The other boy said, well, I'm going to look for a catfish for my father, for his wealth. They said, well, let's cooperate, let's do this together. So that's good. Now, the boys didn't know the advice of Ifa, but they were just, cooperating, working together. As they're walking along, the wealthy boy said, well, my father owns many, many fish ponds. It's no problem. He says, we'll just go to one of them. We can go and just take I'm sure there are many. You can take as many as you want to. The other boy's like, well, that's really odd, because my dad is a professional pond drainer, and he's taught me how to do it. So then the wealthy boy said, everything will be great. I'll show you the pond. You get all the fish you want. We'll all be happy. As they're going along, they're going from pond to pond to pond that the wealthy man owned. Guess what? No catfish. All kind of other fish, but no catfish. The catfish is right? There was no catfish. They would drain out these ponds and scoop up all the fish. There'd be all types of fish in there, but no catfish. Well, they went to the last pond that the rich man had, and they drained it, and they found one big giant catfish in there, just perfect. They were both so happy. And they were both so happy because the wealthiest son says, my father's going to regain his health. The other boy who was less wealthy, he said, my father's going to become wealthy again. They both went and they both grabbed the same catfish at the same time. They began to fight over it. And it's not easy to fight over catfish because catfish is slippery. And they're fighting over it. And the wealthy boy said, hey, let go of this catfish. This is my catfish. This is my father's property. The thing on my father's property belongs to me. The other boy said, but I'm the one who drained all these ponds, including this one. Without me, you would have never even seen this catfish, much less be able to catch it. It's my fish. They're fighting. They're fighting. And they're fighting. They begin to argue with each other. And the Irawoifa Ogun was off in the distance, and he's walking, and he heard all this ruckus and this argument, in the middle of the forest. He came to this pond, and he saw two boys fighting and a catfish laying there on the ground, jumping around. Ogun said, what's the problem here? Both boys began to speak at once. Ogun said, stop. His first, you speak. So the wealthy boy said, well, my father is very ill, and all these other troubles are mounting in his life. He sent me to this pond which he owns to collect the catfish. I've got it. Now this person won't let me take this catfish home. Ogun told the other boy, now you say your side of the story. The other side of the story was this. The boy said, my father was financially broke. He was down on his luck. His problems are going up and up. He cast ifa. He was told to collect a catfish. So I met this person along the way who doesn't know how to drain any ponds. And I used my tools, and we drained out this last pond here after doing many, and we found a catfish. It's my catfish. I found it. Finders keepers. The rich boy says, but if I don't get the head of this catfish, my father could die. And the other boy said, well, if I don't get the tail of this catfish, my father will never regain his financial well-being. So as Ogun's listening to the story and the boys are arguing, Ogun simply took out his machete, right? And he cut the catfish in half. He told the wealthy boy, you take the ori and you feed this to your father's head. He will get strong. He told the other boy, you take this tail of this catfish and you feed Ifa. And with that, all will be well for you. The two boys looked at each other. And that's when they both said together, please repeat after me. It's when Ogun cut the catfish in Otu.
It's when Ogun cut the catfish in Otu.
That we obtained comfort.
That we obtained comfort.
That's why the Odu is called Ogun da Meji. Da is two. Ogun cut it in two. Ogun da Meji. That's why this Odu is When Ogun cut the catfish in Otu, we obtained our prosperity. The boys were so happy. They were so comfortable. They realized we were cooperating for a moment there, but then we stopped. You see, and that's what happens to all people when we can cooperate when things are going well. Yeah, free drinks for everybody. It's on the house. Yeah, come on in. There's enough for everybody. But what do we do? How do we cooperate when things get tight and tough? Let's think back to 3 years ago. Do we all remember times during the pandemic when for a little while there it looked like there might not be enough food? And people showed who they really were, for better and for worse. I met very kind people who actually brought food. They brought back. People in the markets were empty. In March 2020, the markets were empty. People were wondering where their next food would come from. The lines outside the markets were so long. And the stores put limits on what people could buy. And even then, people would still share and contribute and check in on each other. It's cooperation. It's the right thing to do. Ifa says if we cooperate, we will be well. We will be healthy. That's what Ogunda Meji is saying. And we will be wealthy if we cooperate. You see, we cannot be healthy alone. We need the doctor. We need the medicine the doctor has. We need the herbalist, the acupuncturist, whatever. We need that. We may need a therapist. We can't do all these alone. We need to have the cooperation and assistance of another person. So as the saying goes, no man is an island. You can't get married alone. Last time I checked, it's pretty hard. Okay? We need to make sure, you can't do it, at least not now, under the definition of marriage that we have. You need another person, you need to know cooperation. Now so that sounds so easy. Yeah, let's just cooperate. But we know there are things that stop people from cooperating. So I want to bring out the element of what stops us from cooperating. There's many things, but the most common thing that stops people from cooperating is greed. That's what happened in the story with the two boys. The two boys, everything was fine when they thought there was 1 million catfish, but when they only found one catfish, they said, no, it's mine, no, it's mine. And Ogun had to cut and separate the catfish into two. And there was comfort again. Ifa says that greed is to be avoided. This is from the Odu called Iwori Odanrin, which is Iwori on the right, Owanrin on the left. Please repeat after me. Iwori Odanrin.
Iwori Odanrin.
Let the youth share.
Let the youth share.
So that the elder sibling may pick first.
So that the elder sibling may pick first.
This was cast Ifa for Iwori.
This was cast Ifa for Iwori.
When he was offering a bow to not be cheated.
When he was offering a bow to not be cheated.
By his brother Owanrin.
By his brother Owanrin.
His father had just died.
His father had just died.
They were going to share all of the clothing materials.
They were going to share all of the clothing materials.
He complied.
He complied.
Now, the one that I pick.
The one that I pick.
Is the one next to you.
Is the one next to you.
Iwori Odanrin does not have eyes to see.
Iwori Odanrin does not have eyes to see.
The one that I pick.
The one that I pick.
Is next to you.
Is next to you.
Thank you. This is the story of two brothers, Iwori and Owanrin. Okay, so Iwori was the older brother. He was blind. Owanrin was the younger brother. He had his sight. Well, they had a father who was fairly wealthy. And the way he was wealthy, the father had a lot of clothes. I mean, this guy had more clothes than Macy's, right? And Ross and Target and many other stores put together. This guy had a lot of clothes. A lot of clothes, okay? More clothes than a swap meet, we might say. Some people might say. He had so many clothes, and they were nice clothes. He had some bad clothes thrown in, but he had many nice clothes too. Well, one day the father became elderly and he died. And the issue became, who will inherit all of these clothes, especially the nice ones? I mean, these were nice clothes. You know, with the cloth that has the embroidery in it, the stitching of other materials through it. It was very elegant stuff. So everybody watched this man's clothes and said, when he dies, whoever inherits is going to have some nice clothing. Well, the way the tradition worked is that the sons would inherit. So immediately, Iwori, the older brother, said, you know, he's blind. He said, I better go and cast Ifa to make sure I am not cheated by my younger brother or anybody else. Because he said, I just really can't see. I won't know. I can maybe touch and feel, but I won't know what it is. I know my dad has nice clothes. I've never seen them, but I know they're nice based on everything people say. He cast Ifa in Iwori, Owanri, Iwori, Odanrin came out, and it said in here that the Babalao's name was let the youth share and let the elder pick first. That was his name. So that's the Babalao. You know, when a Babalao has a name, that Babalao's name is advice for the client. So he told the client, he told the blind man, he said, please, let the youth share and let the elder pick first. If you follow that and offer this abo, you'll be fine. You'll get the clothes that you need for your destiny. The blind man quickly offered the abo, and he went to the house where they were dividing up all the materials. Now, when the blind man walked in, he could just hear people and everything, because people wanted, it was like an auction almost. People wanted to see what's going to happen to all this stuff. It was like an estate sale. And he listened for the voice, and they directed the blind brother was directed to his sighted brother. He greeted his younger brother, and they spoke, and then they both sat down, and there were piles of clothes. So they said, how will we proceed here? Now, here was the problem. There were many elders there who were siding with the young brother. They were with the young brother. Why? Because they wanted to take all the nice clothes and to let the young brother have, and then they would get their payoffs of clothes. The older brother, the blind brother, said, I could get cheated here easily. So as they sat down, they put clothes. And they told the brother, please, the blind brother, touch what you want. So he's trying to feel it. He's like, I can't tell, this pile. He just couldn't tell what was nice and what was not nice. So he remembered the advice of his awo. And what was the name of his awo? It said, let the youth share and let the elder pick first. So he thought, I gotta pick it. And the older brother, who was blind, said, I want the clothes that are next to you. And he pointed to his younger brother. And that's where all the nice clothes were. The whole pile was there. He says, that's the one I want. He says, let the youth share and let the elder pick first. At that moment, the younger brother began to cry. He realized he was left with all of the junky clothes. And the one pile that was worth enough wealth for a village for 7 years was right there. He began to cry. So what Ifa is saying is failure to cooperation, greed, arrogance, and patience, it will only burn you in the end. It will only, whenever you think you don't have enough, you actually do have enough. Because when sharing comes up, when you need to share, you have enough. That's in fact the definition of benevolence. Benevolence is sharing something that is in short supply that you really need because another person needs it. For example, if you are a millionaire and you share $20 with somebody, that's not really benevolence. That's not really cooperating because it doesn't mean much to you. But if you're a millionaire and you share out $200,000, now we're speaking. Everyone at their level can share in the appropriate way and cooperate. And cooperation always means giving of yourself in order to exchange with another person. Now, what are some of the benefits of cooperation? There's so many. Again, we must not do anything alone. If we want to be married, if we want to have a successful home, if we want to have financial wealth, we need to work with other people. If we want to belong to a religious house, an ile, a temple, a church, a mosque, a synagogue, we need to know how to work with other people. It's usually the people who don't know how to work with others that are pushed out in one way or another. Okay? So, we must cooperate. There are so many benefits to cooperation. So one of the benefits of cooperation that Ifa speaks about is diversity of views. That means that when you and I work together, when we cooperate, when we work together, what happens is your views and my views come together and we create something new. We feel good because we're sharing, and then we mix all those ingredients together to make something new and something beautiful. So it's a diversity. And things that are diverse have a greater chance of succeeding. You don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Okay? So for example, if there is a married couple and one loves to spend and the other is economically very conservative, and they cooperate and team up and try to factor both views together, they're going to succeed. Why? Because one's going to be focused on saving money, and one's going to be focused on spending the money for the investments and the things we need, because you can't make money unless you spend some money. That's how things succeed. That's why the famous song is called Opposites Attract. Opposites attract, they work together and they can be very successful. Let's talk about in the case of business. In so many successful businesses, it was cooperation which led to these products flowering. I'm thinking of different computer companies where when you look back at the original founders, one person was the one involved in tech and programming. Another one loved marketing. They brought it together because tech alone or marketing would not be enough. You have to bring together all these diverse interests. In fact, that's all a corporation is a conglomeration or a collection of diverse interests who are working for one goal. It's the same with any Ifa temple or church, any institution. It's diversity. Think of all the great musical bands in history. You say, oh yeah, I love this player because this is what she did and this is what he did. They brought their styles together to create something else beautiful. That's the power of cooperation. Okay, now beyond that, so that's the collective part. But it also allows each person to shine individually, because by cooperating, you're practicing your own thing that you're known for, right? You're contributing your own piece. So there's all these important things. The final part of a cooperation is that where there's cooperation, there's more resiliency. Resiliency means things can bend, but they don't break in half. Things can be flexible, and they will survive hard times. So again, back to the example of the pandemic. People were cooperating. Okay, people were checking in on each other. People were working together. They were sharing food. Did you notice in the first months of 2020 there was a lot of people out walking around sharing things? Yes, we know there was people initially panicked and went and bought all the toilet paper of all the things to buy, right? Everybody bought the toilet paper and towels. That's okay. But we know that we saw people sharing in food. People were trying to make sure, in most cases, not all, but most cases, that their neighbors were okay. That's cooperation. And there's the sense that we'll all get through this. So we all need to cooperate. But the spiritual message why we should cooperate also is not just practical. Ifa has to give a spiritual message. The reason we cooperate is not because it will make our business successful. It'll make our relationship successful. It'll make our temple successful. It'll make our whatever. It's because the Irawoifa themselves also cooperated. They were masters at cooperation. I'm going to give you evidence of this. We normally think of the Irawoifa, the Orishas, as these human figures who just go and do things and have victory and success. No, they were struggling and trying to work on planet Earth just as we are. And they also struggled in heaven just as we did. And they worked together. This is from the Odu Iwori Meji. Please repeat after me. Let's see. Let me find the verse. Sometimes the verses, they run. Ogun, please repeat. Iwori Meji.
Iwori Meji.
Ogun is he.
Ogun is he.
Who assisted in the molding of the Ori.
Who assisted in the molding of the Ori.
He also assisted.
He also assisted
in the molding of the legs.
In the molding of the legs.
To give them their long.
To give them their long.
And strong.
And strong.
Strides.
Strides.
Yes. The big ball of Ephun.
The big ball of Ephun.
The white chalk.
The white chalk.
Fell onto the ground and rolled.
Fell onto the ground and rolled.
Yes. This was cast Ifa.
This was cast Ifa.
For the female egg.
For the female egg.
Their child in heaven.
Their child in heaven.
And the male sperm.
And the male sperm.
Their child in heaven.
Their child in heaven.
They were advised to offer a bow.
They were advised to offer a bow.
They complied.
They complied.
Now, egg and sperm,
Now egg and sperm,
please disappear
please disappear
and make a bouncing baby.
and make a bouncing baby.
Okay, so thank you. This is rewarding image, and what this Ifa is speaking of is the way Ogun and other body parts and spiritual entities cooperate together to make a baby. So they said Ogun is he who molds the human head. Ogun also molds and shapes the legs, right? So Ogun's the molder of the human body. So humans would not exist without Ogun. But Ogun's cooperating with the spirit of Wanzari to give it a physical container. So we've got Ogun and we've got Ori cooperating to help make humans. Okay. And then it said, the story brought in the female egg. We're talking of literally the egg that a woman has in her body. So this also cooperates with the male sperm. And what happens when a male sperm and an egg come together? It creates a human being with the blessings of Obatala. That's why it said the Efun ball, the white chalk, is rolling across the ground. So it's telling us that for a person to even come into existence, there needs to be the cooperation of the egg and the sperm. They come together and Obatala blesses that. But then it needs a human body to come into. So then the Ori says, well, who's going to mold me? It's Ogun. Don't you see all these spiritual entities? And we haven't even talked about all the other deities who mold other parts and all of the steps. For things to come into existence, there needs to be cooperation. So I just say in closing, if you want to succeed in life, learn to cooperate. If you want to be healthy, learn to cooperate. If you want help on any project, find those who can help you. Ifa says don't exclude people, right? Too much in the West, in the countries we live in, we try to do everything alone and we become lonely. It says if you cooperate and work with people in a healthy and proper way. We'll talk another day about what is proper cooperation, because there can be abusive cooperation. We know that. But we're talking about healthy here. If you can do those things, you will succeed. You will have the erase that Ifa says are worth celebrating. Prosperity, spouse, children, you will have long life. Those things, you cannot get them alone. We only can do them with cooperation. Thank you for listening. Aboru, aboye, abo shisho. All right. So thank you for listening to our sermon. We're so happy and honored to have you all here. Today, we will also be reminding you that if you value what you hear, support Ifa temples. Everyone watching, it's like the public radio, whatever. People listen for free. No, please contribute to this temple or another temple, any temple. We need to have Ifa temples on every corner so that anytime people are going anywhere, they can have Ifa temples to go to. We need to have Ifa meetings. We need to support our Ifa the way all the other people support their faiths. Okay? With that, we'll succeed. Now, if you